Help me to reach 2,000 subscribers. When the security monitor flickered at 2:17 a.m., I almost ignored it. The hum of the control room had become background noise over the years. Screens buzzing, fluorescent lights flickering, coffee going cold beside my elbow. But something about the movement on the upper right feed caught my attention. It was the conference room, dark except for the soft glow of the city bleeding through the glass. And then I saw her. Lena. My wife. Her long brown hair fell over her shoulders as she leaned across the conference table, laughing, too softly, too familiarly. Opposite her sat Daniel, her manager. His hand brushed hers, then lingered. For a second, I couldn't breathe. The stale air of the control room thickened, pressing against my chest. My mind went blank, my hands frozen over the keyboard. Then came the quiet click of her heels echoing through the empty office hallway, the tilt of her head, the unmistakable intimacy in the way she smiled at him. It felt like my lungs forgot how to function. I sat there, watching in silence as she moved closer. A part of me wanted to shut the screen off, to pretend I'd imagined it. But I couldn't look away. The camera captured everything, the dim lighting, the way she whispered something into his ear, and then the moment his hand slipped behind her waist, pulling her in. The kiss. It wasn't hesitant. It wasn't accidental. It was deliberate, slow, and full of familiarity. The coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattering against the concrete floor. The sound jolted me back into myself, and my reflection in the dark glass of the monitor looked like a stranger's, wide-eyed, hollow, trembling. I'd worked at that building for 7 years. I was the one who checked every door, every lock, every camera. And now, one of those cameras had turned into the weapon that destroyed my world. Earlier that evening, she'd called me sweetheart before leaving. Told me she'd be stuck in late-night meetings again. I'd smiled, proud of her. She was a project coordinator for a high-profile marketing firm. Educated, ambitious, everything I'd never been. She'd always teased me about being too comfortable in my small job, laughing as she scrolled through her phone, talking about her co-workers' promotions and their real careers. I never complained. My job paid enough for rent, and I liked the quiet. Watching over a building at night meant I could think, breathe, and sometimes dream. I thought we were building something steady, safe. Now, that illusion was bleeding out across a grainy security feed. When she came home at 3:45 a.m., her lipstick smudged just slightly, she found me sitting at the kitchen table. The house smelled faintly of stale takeout and betrayal. "Ethan?" she asked, blinking in surprise. "You're still up?" I didn't answer. My phone sat on the table in front of me. The screen paused on the image of her in that conference room. The silence stretched, thick as fog. She hesitated, her tone softening. "Babe, what's wrong?" I turned the phone toward her. The color drained from her face as the image lit up the room in cold blue light. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, "Where did you get that?" "From work," I said quietly. "From one of the cameras you forgot existed." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "It's not, Ethan. It's not what it looks like." I laughed. It sounded ugly, raw, like something breaking. "Then tell me what it is. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like my wife and her boss couldn't wait for office hours." She flinched. "I was drunk." "It was." "You drove home," I cut in. "You weren't drunk enough to forget where you parked." The silence that followed was unbearable. She finally sank into the chair across from me, her hands shaking. "It's been hard, Ethan. You don't understand the kind of pressure I'm under. Daniel, he listens. He makes me feel seen." "Seen?" I echoed. "You mean not like the simple security guard you've been living with for 7 years?" Her eyes filled with guilt, and something else. Pity. "You're a good man, Ethan. But you're stuck. You don't want more. And I wanted someone who wears suits and drives a BMW." I said, my voice breaking. Her silence was answer enough. The next morning, I went to work early. I replayed the footage over and over, part of me searching for some reason, some sign I'd missed. I'd loved her too quietly, I realized. Too patiently. Maybe she'd mistaken that for weakness. Around 9 a.m., Daniel walked through the lobby, all confidence and cologne, nodding at me like I was invisible. "Morning," he said, not recognizing the storm behind my polite nod. I followed him with my eyes until he vanished behind the elevator doors. My hands clenched around the key ring. Every instinct screamed for confrontation, for revenge. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I did what I did best. I observed. That evening, when Lena returned to the office for overtime, I was already watching from the control room. I saved every minute of that night's recording, labeled neatly on a flash drive. I waited until their laughter echoed faintly through the security feed again. The conference room door shut. Lights dimmed. And I pressed record. 2 nights later, I invited Lena to the company's weekend dinner. She was hesitant, but she came, dressed to perfection, pretending nothing had happened. Daniel was there, too, all charming smiles. During dessert, I stood up and cleared my throat. "There's something I'd like to show everyone." The projector screen flickered on. The room dimmed. At first, it was just the timestamp, 2:17 a.m. Then Lena's voice, laughing softly. Daniel's hand on hers. The kiss. Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped a glass. Lena's eyes went wide with horror. Daniel's face turned pale. I didn't say a word. I simply looked at her, one last time, then turned and walked out. Outside, the night air was cold and clean. The city buzzed in the distance, alive and indifferent. My hands shook, but for the first time in days, I felt steady. A week later, she showed up at my apartment door, mascara streaked, voice trembling. "You ruined my life," she said. I looked at her for a long moment. "No," I said softly. "You did that yourself. I just showed you what it looked like." She started to cry, begging, apologizing, reaching for me. But something in me had gone quiet. Still. "I used to think being a simple man made me less," I said, stepping back. "Now I know it made me honest. You just couldn't see it." As I closed the door, her sobs faded behind it, replaced by the low hum of silence. In the control room later that night, I watched the monitors glow in the dark, cold, unblinking witnesses to truth. And for the first time, I didn't feel small beneath their gaze. I'd lost my wife. But I'd found something sharper, stronger. Self-respect.